All right, guys, today we're working on a 2013 Ford Explorer. We're changing the driver's side motor mount due to a lot of issues we're having with it, and we believe it's just flat out worn out. This video should apply to all U502 platform Explorers, which is 2011 to 2019. Specifically, if it has the 3.5 naturally aspirated engine like this one does. If you have a 3.5 turbo, it may be the same style mount or very similar, and I know for sure that the 4-cylinder turbo EcoBoost engine is probably totally different. The mount on this one is an older design. They have a newer part out there now, and I believe that they actually introduced the newer design in 2016 when they did the facelift of the Explorer. So anything from 2011 to 2015, it's probably going to have a newer mount on it. I'll show you some of the other mounts on this car while we're going around, but some of the symptoms I'm having have a very rough idle. I have some really hard shifts, especially if you're first to second. Seems like it's really hard letting off the gas, coming up to a stop sign. I can feel it shift real hard, and I think that's really just the engine moving around when the change in momentum of it. So I think that's all related to this motor mount. Because it's just that whole mass of engine just moving around. I keep calling it a motor mount, but some people call it a transmission mount, because it's more on the transmission side. But I think the actual technical term for it, it's insulator, which it is. It's a big old glob of rubber, essentially isolating the engine transmission assembly away from the body. So let me show you some of these mounts. All right, so the first motor mount we're working on, it's going to be under the battery box, which what we'll be doing is we'll be taking this the air filter box out, the battery box, or taking the battery out, and the battery tray underneath it. Sorry, I said battery box, it's battery tray. And once we do that, we'll have full access to that mount. And the passenger side one we're leaving alone because there's nothing wrong with it. This is a hydraulic mount, and as you can see, there's nothing leaking from it. Usually, if it's leaking, it's usually a reddish color, like a transmission fluid. And then the other mount, again, another one we're not touching, is what we call the dog bone. So that little piece right there. On 2011 to 2012s, they had a piece of stamped steel, and in 2013, they updated it to this more cast aluminum piece. It's a little bit beefier. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here, we're going to get this air box out of the way. We're going to remove this, or loosen this clamp, and we're going to take off this connector. This connector has a special secondary lock where you have to pull a red security tab back, and then you're allowed to squeeze this and let it out. So if you can see it here, this tab has to be pulled back, and then you can squeeze this. And also that means when you put this back on, you need to push this tab in after you fully seat it when you're done. All right, so most of the work here, I'm going to be using power tools. Obviously, any handheld ratchet will do most of this work. I'm using an electric ratchet just to make life a little bit easier on this. So this is an 8mm bolt, or 8mm worm drive clamp on this hose here. So just give that a couple turns, release the latches. On the left side, there's 2 latches. Lift up. All right, first of all, you can disconnect the hose, and then you can lift up. And there is a wire. Let's see if you can see this. There's that wire that we just unplugged is connected to the box, but you can just take it, move it over here. We'll take our air filter out. Then we got 2 8mm bolts right here that hold this air vent in place. And then we need to take the box out, which just give it a little firm lift and it loosens up. So yeah, what we're doing is we're going to rotate it back. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah, rotate it back. Makes it a little bit easier to get out. All right, so next we're going to disconnect the battery. We're switching over to a 10mm socket for this. And first thing we're going to do, we will disconnect the negative side. And what you do, this one right here, don't get confused with this one. We're just loosening this one. So now, give it a little wiggle. This one right here is the one, it's the topmost nut. We need to just give that a little, there we go. We can kind of push this or lift it up. Now we're going to remove the tie down for it, and that's again 2 more 10 millimeter on these. And to remove this little tie down bar. And obviously I think it should go without saying, make sure you keep up with your nuts and bolts. So now the battery is free. We will lift it up and pull it out of the way. All right, so now we got to take the battery tray out. Some things you need to take notice of. We have a wire harness push Christmas tree style clip there, and also we have 2 of them down here. And to remove those, we use this Harbor Freight panel clip pliers. I actually bought one of these 12 years ago and lost it, so I keep trying to find it, never could find it, so went ahead and bought another set. And what you'll do, you try to get the panel, or the what you try to do is try to get the Christmas tree in between here, so when you squeeze it, it pulls it away. And hopefully I get this on camera. Boom, that one's done. There's one over here. And then that one's out. See how both of them popped right out? And then we got the one over here on the side. And maybe a little bit harder to get with these plier things. All right, and that one popped right out. All right, so now we just have to remove 2 bolts, one there and one there, and there's a nut right here, and I believe those are 13 millimeter. Double check. Yep, 13 millimeter. We'll start with the nut first. These, make sure they're the same size, and they are, so no worries on mixing that up. All right, so one more thing we got to take off of this battery tray here. There's a bolt right there, and that is also a 13. There we go. So now everything should be free on this battery tray, and it should be able to come right up. I forgot one clip. There is one clip right there. And what you want to do is pull to the left a little bit, because there is a slight hook that grabs this fuse box. And there we go. And that is your motor mount, or transmission mount, right here. One thing to notice, see the bolt, it comes from this side, it goes through. The bolt is really low inside that mount, and this rubber is supposed to be connected to the top, but I can stick my finger through it, so it's already, you can tell it's already ripped. All right, so the next thing I did, I put a jack underneath, put a piece of block of wood on top of it, and I put it right where the split of the 2 halves of the transmission are, and just pumped it up a little bit to apply some pressure before we take this mount off. All right, so there's 4 bolts on the rightmost piece, and it looks like there are 4 nuts On this piece, all the nuts, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think are 15 millimeter. These two nuts, boom, boom, they're 15. And then there's two horizontal ones that go into the frame rail, the unibody. And those, I believe, I know the first one, front one's 13, so I'd assume the rear one is 13 as well. Those are going to be the most troublesome, just because of the clearance issue here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those first, and then taking the rest of them off should be real quick. Again, you know, pop a jack underneath the motor and push up against the, you know, transmission. Just apply a little bit of pressure to keep all the weight off, so when you disconnect it, it doesn't, you know, fall down significantly. So let's go ahead and get these right here cracked loose. Now these do, I think, have Loctite on them, so you're going to feel force or resistance the entire time. There's that one. There. All right. Let's see the same side. Yeah, you can see there's Loctite on it, and that is what's taking all the work. Well, I think I may be wrong off my initial observation. It turns out that there's 3 nuts on the left side, and the back one is actually, it appears to be a bolt, which makes sense because you got to think the manufacturability of this. This gets bolted in first, and then this mount right here slides on those studs, and then you cinch down the bolt in the back, and that allows these 2 pieces to clamp and allows these to be tightened. And so these 3 studs act like alignment pins, and we'll kind of utilize that, I think, when we put everything back together. So go ahead. The bolt in the back is actually, I think, a 13 millimeter, but the nuts are still 15. Yeah, watch out for the harnesses and stuff here. I'll switch to 13. So I didn't have the camera on when I get that last bolt out, but you can see this conical shape right here is definitely utilized to center that mount into place first before you tighten down the studs. And so we'll go over a torque procedure when we get the new one in there. So everything's loose there. We still have the 2 on the right side. Bolts, and they are the same as the 2 on the sides. And now this will come out just fine, and that looks like crap. You see that? Look at that. So I just want to take a moment and compare these two, and you can see how much of a difference. See, there was very thin layers of rubber in here, and this is just one massive clump of rubber in here. I mean, everything about this thing is over-engineered compared to this. I mean, even the bracket that holds the battery box. But, and as I was taking it out, one thing I noticed, this thing's not even connected. Look at that, it's just, look. So would you say this thing's shot? Yeah, I'd say it was well past its prime. And I mean, I've been having issues for a few thousand miles, but just never had the time to look into it. But let me talk about part numbers here. So this one is a DB. I actually put it up here. DB53 6F blah blah. I don't care about the middle. I don't care about the end. But what I'm really caring about is this number right here. And it's actually the very first digit is what I care about, because Ford changed their part number system starting with model year 99. It used to be like A was 40s, B was 50s, or something along those lines. So it was a whole decade. Second digit was the last digit of the year. But 99, they changed the whole system, and they started out with X at 99. It goes to Y is the year 2000. Then it went to 1 equals 01. Numbers were 1 for 1 all the way up to 2009, and then it switched over to alphabetical starting with 2010. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So what the point I'm trying to make here is this has a letter D at the beginning, and that's what coincides with the model year. So this was not necessarily model year of the vehicle, but model year of design. So this was 13, okay, the part that was in here. Now this could be a late model, a later 2013. I have to look it up. But this one, the part number is FB5Z, so F is 15. But I know people that have model year 15s that had the old style, like this one right here. So I'm thinking it was designed in 15 and then placed, most likely 100% of the 2016 model year vehicles got it. Maybe at the end of the 2015 run, some of them got the updated mount. But anyway, the second two digits, that's the model platform. So B5 means U502 Explorers, which is like, again, like I said, 2011 to 2019. Like a different code would be like the older Ford Rangers would have their own number. And then this is supposed to be the design responsibility of this part. So if I'm reading this correctly, this is a lot of, I'm inferring a lot here. But 3, according to a table I saw, was large luxury VC. So some specific group or something came up. And I think that was initial stages of design. And Z is supposed to be Ford customer service. So I'm thinking that this was pushed by Ford customer service, probably due to maybe a lot of complaints. I've seen a lot of people change this mount, and they're all about the same. They are just slap broken. And I've had vehicles put 200,000-300,000 miles on, never even touched the motor mounts. And this vehicle only has 90,000 miles. So I think they found fault with this design, and they said, hey, our customers are having some issues, and maybe that was the push for this redesign, this more beefier design that's less likely to fail. Now, I believe the dog bone, the one that goes underneath the transmission, I think it changed, and I think they have the latest revision on it has first letter D. So I think 2013 they stopped making changes to it. They said this is perfect. So 11 and 12 have the old school stamped dog bone. Now the hydraulic mount, according to Task of Parts, the latest part number is a G, so somehow there's a change there. And I know my mount is different from the 2011, 2012 guys. So I think that there's possibly a B, and then, you know, it's probably a D for my year. They made another change, and then they finally came up with the final design with the G part number in 2016. But anyway, there's some little information for you. I like to throw a little bit more information in than just a simple repair, you know, but if you want to skip this, no big deal. But let's get back to putting this this new one in here, and let's see how it goes. All right, let's see if we can get this bad boy in here. Hopefully, should be able to just slide it over those studs. All right, so one thing you need to take care of looking at, if you notice, this hole here is elongated, this one's elongated, this one's elongated, and this one's more circular. So you need to feed this bolt in first when you put this in. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to tighten up this side first, and then, I mean, this will be slid over. We'll tighten this one with the conical bolt. It'll keep this whole area lined up, and then we'll tighten these down, and we'll see how that goes. pretty good. All right. What I may do, well, let me make sure I got that bolt. I can get to this bolt here. All right, so I think I can get that bolt started. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit more thread locker to it, some fresh on there. That should be good for it now, because I think I can get this started without having to move anything. It's actually tighter quarters now. Let's see if I can. I'll fast forward to this part. This part's going to be boring. So let me go ahead and tell you, those last two are a pain, or those ones under, or those horizontal ones are a pain in the butt. The leftover Loctite, even when brushed, it just makes them so hard to get in there. And there's really no clearance for anything. I got this wrench in there. In the back one, so I tightened the front one. I went ahead and put the back one in first. Contrary to what you just saw, I took it out and rearranged it. I put the back one in first, got it started, put the front one in, started it, tightened it, and then went back to the back, because the front one doesn't have the elongated hole. It's more of alignment. And then there's so much torque required because of that thread locker to, again, words of wisdom, you know, take a brush to it as best as you can, but there's still going to be some left in the hole that's going to make it hard to turn. So pretty much I had this rotating hooked up underneath the mount, and then I had to take a 26 millimeter long wrench to give me just the leverage. So I had to do it like this, and it's also like an offset. So if you can get your hands on like a long indexable head ratchet, maybe that would work, but this was the only way to really get it on there. So now that those two are tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up the ones right here on the right, or on the, yeah, frame rail. Now, all the bolts I have access to, I'm going to go ahead and torque on the motor mount. Everything else in the car, I'm not going to worry about. This one needs to go in first. So, like I said, to align the, let me get this back out of the way. To align the actual part that attaches to the transmission. And I'm going to put some more thread locker on, some fresh. There's probably enough still on the old to use again. Let's see, hopefully. Make sure you start everything by hand. You do not want to cross thread, you know, the studs on the motor or the holes inside the body. All right, that's on there. We'll switch to the nuts, and see, you can tell these don't need thread locker because they're nylock. They got nylon on them. I think you can use these up to 4 times before you need to. So we'll do the same. Make sure that's lined up. Let me pull the torque specs and we'll torque it down. All right, here's the torque specs. The 2 bolts that you see on the right side that face up, the 13 millimeter head bolts, those are 52 foot-pounds. Bolt down the conical bolt in the back left to 59 foot-pounds, and the nuts are 46 foot-pounds. One thing, make sure that conical nut is fully seated in there all the way, so that way this is properly aligned. So I went ahead and torqued everything there. And now it's just time to button everything back up, and we'll start with the battery tray. So again, with the battery tray, you get 4 plugs. Let's see if you can see these, the little Christmas tree clips. We'll snake this through here. Make sure this tab goes into the fuse box. There's a little slot for it. And the first thing you need to do after you check that slot, make sure it's there, is find the stud on this side. And once it's down on that stud, you're good there. Let's go ahead and just pop these clips in there, and see this one here. And before I do these bottom two, I'm gonna put that bolt back in. Remember, those are 13mm heads. Do this nut. This bolt. There's that. Now we can do the push pins or Christmas tree clips there. Take your battery, make sure the terminals are on the left side. There's that. Put your tie down cross brace on. Get these started, these 10mm. Again. I like to get one side pretty much just touching, not tight. Tighten that one down and then fully tighten that side. All right, time for the air box. Well, actually no. All right, time to get the terminals on. So we'll connect positive first. Make sure everything's, tuck that handle down a little bit. Tighten it down. All you got to do is tighten it down, make sure that doesn't move. There's that. Get your negative on. I want your headlights flash at you as you connect it. That's good and tight. And air filter box. I think we had it in like so. You gotta find where those two little nubs at the bottom go into their little respective grommets. And you can tell when it's seated. All right, pop the air filter back in. I'll say, take the housing cover over. Oh, actually, we gotta put these two bolts in. Slide from the right into those little slots, or slide from the left to the right. And before you clamp it, make sure that tube is on there good. Clip, clip, connector slides on, and again, make sure you slide that red secondary lock over. And we'll tighten this up. I think we're done. All right, so it's all put back together again. Took it for a test spin, and it feels so much better. During the initial startup, you can definitely tell that it's smoothed out, even just the startup of the engine. Usually when you first started up, it was really hard, rumbly kind of start. Also at idle, just the whole vehicle resonated a little bit more, like it was a deeper throaty, like something was vibrating on the frame. Took it out, all the shifts felt 10 times better. There was no jerking motion in it, so definitely a good repair on this one, and hopefully an upgrade over what the previous motor mount was. If I could do anything different from what I did on this video, it would be to clean off the 2 bolts that go horizontal onto the frame rail, the ones that's just a pain to get to. Clean those off a little bit better, maybe run a die over them to cut off all the extra thread sealant that's solidified and got gummy. Also, I would probably run a thread follower through the frame rail where it's threaded. I highly advise not using a tap unless you're trying to cut new threads on anything, because if you start a tap, if you don't get it just right, you can just totally damage the threads of what you're trying to chase the threads of. So I'm thinking, my thought is, if you can get all that excess old thread locker out of there and put new thread locker in liquid form on it, the bolt will go in so much easier, and the only movement you have to do with the ratchet would be just the last few strokes to tighten it up to final torque, because pretty much it was full. It felt like close to full torque every swing of that wrench on both of those bolts in that area, just because I could only use a combination ratcheting wrench and really just a ratchet just for the first few swings of it. But anyway, that's a video on my version of how to do it. If you like this video, check out some of the other stuff I do. I do some other random repairs, and my channel's all kinds of sorts of random. I do some stuff on mini bikes, mini lathes, basic repairs of other things. But if you like some of the videos, if you would, just subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.